Good morning, everyone. Hope you're having a glorious day, a glorious morning on this glorious day. So I want to teach you a very profound thought from my dear Rebbe, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, and connected to this week's Torah portion. But before we start, I have a question for you. Are you the jealous type? Do you constantly watch what others are doing and say, oh, if I only had that car, if I only had that home, if only my kids were as smart as my friends, etc., etc. You know, from a young age we're taught that jealousy is not a good thing. You shouldn't be jealous of your friends. You shouldn't be jealous of your neighbors. In fact, the 10th of all the commandments is do not covet, which the rabbis explain the reason why it's the 10th is because the Torah explains us that all other problems come from jealousy. Yet, with all that we're taught not to be jealous, we know that it's something within our nature, that we're always watching what someone else has, and we're always checking who and how they are doing. In fact, and ironically, Mark Zuckerberg was the genius who actually figured this out so long ago. When he created Facebook, he realized that people are nosy. They always want to check, what does the next guy have? I want to see his house. I want to see pictures of his bar mitzvah, of his bat mitzvah, of the wedding. I want to see where they went on vacation, what they did. And because of that nature and jealousy tendency, we keep on going further and further. How many hours a day do you spend on social media? Why? Because that nature, that nosiness, and that jealousy of wanting to know what someone else has and why you don't have it, what you could get. Now take a pause for a minute, and I want to ask you a question on this week's Torah portion. In this week's Torah portion, we read about Korach. Korach, as we told you the history, Korach was jealous. He was jealous of his cousin Aaron. He said, why is Aaron the high priest? Why can't I be the high priest? Why can't I have that position to be able to serve as the high priest in the temple? And of course, we know the history. Korach gets punished in a terrible way. And Korach ends up perishing. The earth swallows him. But the question the Rebbe asks is, why is the Torah portion named Korach? The Torah portion is something that tells us and celebrates something within that Torah portion. And why would we name a Torah portion after Korach, who rebelled against Moses and was punished in the greatest way? In fact, like you take the first week of the year, it's called Shabbat Bereshit. We know why it's called Shabbat Bereshit. Or Shabbos Chazak, when we finish a book. But why would we name a Torah portion the name called Korach? In fact, the Torah tells us that in general, we're not allowed to celebrate the name of the wicked. So if that's the case, we for sure should never have had a Torah portion named Korach. And the Rebbe, in his great and infinite wisdom, teaches us something very important that connects to our own jealousy. The Rebbe says like this. You see, what did Korach want at the end of the day? At the end of the day, Korach says, Kulam kedoshim madua tisnasu akal Hashem. We're all holy. Korach said, I want to serve God. I want to be the high priest. Korach yearned for spirituality. Korach yearned to be the high priest, to be closer to God. Says the Rebbe, the name of the portion is called Korach because Korach taught us something so important. That yes, God created us all with a tendency for jealousy. But our jealousy should be used in matters of spirituality, of holiness, of positiveness. As the Rebbe says in Hayom Yom, and when it comes to material things, we look at the guy who has less than us, and we say, thank God for what I have. But when it comes to something spiritual, we look at the guy who's accomplished more, who has given more, who has done more, and we say, why can't I be like them? You see, Korach's mistake was not that he was jealous of Aaron, but that he wanted to replace him and become the high priest. Because ultimately when the spiritual jealousy comes, it's not to take someone else's position, but it's to unearth the gems, the diamonds within you that allows you the possibility to strive to greater heights. You see, there's two very positive things about jealousy. One is, they say if you want to know who you are, listen to your jealousy. Because when you see what you're jealous of, it shows you deep down what's your potential, who you are. And the second thing about jealousy is the Talmud tells us, if not for jealousy, people wouldn't get married, people wouldn't build a home. Why would I get into a home and have to get a mortgage and worry and stress about taking care of it? If not, because I see what the next guy has. And that's the message the Rebbe says we learn from the portion of Korach. Vayikach Korach. You know what we can learn from Korach? To have that yearning, to have that passion, to be closer to God. To use the tendency for jealousy, not to have, they created this term FOMO, right? Fear of missing out. All day you have fear of missing out. You're flipping through your pictures on Instagram. You're checking Facebook to see what the next guy had. When it comes to materialism, be content with what Hashem gave you. Look at people who have so much less than you. But use that jealousy. Use that instinct of mankind to always want what someone else has. To grow in your spirituality, to reach greater heights. A fascinating letter, which was remarkable, that I read from the Rebbe years ago, where the student in yeshiva wrote to the Rebbe a personal letter. He was working on himself to become greater, to become a better human being. And he says, Rebbe, what should I do? I always look at the students who academically do better, who study more Talmud, who know the Torah better than me, and I'm jealous of them. Rebbe, how do I get rid of it? And you know what the Rebbe answered him? The Rebbe says, don't get rid of it. Harness it. Use that jealousy to become better, to unearth your God-gifted talents, to be a better person, to be more spiritual, to learn more, to put in a greater effort into Torah. I think it's such a remarkable way how the Rebbe saw this and Chassidus teaches us. And I pray and hope that each and every one of us is able to harness our instincts to grow and to be competitive in a way of spirituality, in a way of kindness, in a way of giving. We should learn from Korach how to yearn to be the high priest. And then we should actualize it, not by taking someone else's, but by taking our own potential and becoming a better person. God bless you.